What's happening? Landlord from Alabama here, back with another video. And today, man, we finna talk about Malik Hooker. He was a baller before he got hurt. Now he back and ready to put in some work. Let's go. Okay, I know he got to the team last year, so you might have missed it. Hey, you might have been doing God knows what. Hopefully you wasn't doing nothing too nefarious. But let me bring you back up to speed about Mr. Malik Hooker. He's 26 years old, coming out of Newcastle, Pennsylvania, standing at 6'2", 212 pounds, and ran a 4.4 and a 40. He attended Newcastle High School, where he played basketball and football for 2 years and earned Pittsburgh Male Athlete of the Year. He then committed to Ohio State in 2014. You know, that was the dreaded year that Zeke just ran all over my Crimson Tide, and they won the championship. So, you know, he got a ring even though he was a red shirt. But 2015, he really didn't make too much noise. He was playing on special teams. Then in 2016, he took over the free safety role for the Buckeyes. Leak was in his bag once he finally got the starter role. He had a total of 74 tackles, 7 interceptions, 5.5 tackles for loss with 4 pass breakups, and was named first team All Big Ten. He then passed on his remaining 2 years of eligibility, and then he went into the draft in 2017. But unfortunately, he had a torn labrum and a sports hernia that hindered him from being in the NFL Combine. But luckily, he was such an outstanding talent. He was projected as a top 15 pick, and he still held his draft stock, projected as the second best safety in the league behind Jamal Adams. Then sure enough, Malik was picked 15th overall by the Indianapolis Colts. His rookie year with the Colts, he got off to a great start. He had an interception in 3 consecutive games. That was very impressive. He was looking like the top 15 pick that he was, and he was living up to his draft status. But then, sure enough, the injury bug bit him again. Injuries came knocking again against the Jaguars in week 7. He tore his ACL and his MCL. Like, good grief, that's just terrible news for Mr. Lee, bringing his season to an end early. He was off to a great start. He had 22 tackles, 4 pass breakups, 3 interceptions in just 6 games. He was on to an all-pro start. Ain't no telling where he would be if he was just able to stay on the field, just able to stay healthy. In 2018, he had a pretty healthy year. He played 14 games. He had 44 total tackles, 2 interceptions, and 4 pass breakups. But then, of course, he suffered another injury, a foot injury that kept him out of the divisional round game against the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a pretty solid year in 2019. He had 51 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 3 pass breakups. And then again, the reoccurring theme in 2020, he followed that up with another injury, Achilles injury, and he was on IR for most of the season. Then after that, you know what happened in 2021. The Dallas Cowboys signed him on. We gave him a shot. We gave him a chance. We filled a position of need with a player that was young and talented, but just riddled with injuries, hoping that he can show us some of those flashes of that top 15 pick. You know, the Cowboys and Dan Quinn kind of brought him along slowly because he was coming off the injury, and we was trying to keep him healthy. We had another safety in Demonte KZ, so we was trying to bring him along, you know, inch by inch. We limited his snaps so he could stay healthy. He ended up with 44 tackles and an interception. So we like what we seen from him in the limited time he was on the field, and we was very optimistic. It seemed like he came along as it got deeper and deeper into the season. He seemed like he was returning into form, returning into that top 15 pick that he was with Indianapolis. So after we seen that type of play from Malik Hooker, we was very optimistic. We was believing in him. We was buying in. We actually let go Demonte KZ, and he kind of leapfrogged Donovan Wilson. You know, Donovan was a player from the old regime, so he really don't have too many sponsors in the building. And they brought Malik in this year, and Malik basically was ahead of Donovan Wilson in the depth chart. So with DeMonte KZ gone, it's basically Malik's show now. It's his time to shine. It's his spot. He is the man on the roof, like Foster King say, man. Shout out to Foster King. I watch him too. I'm a Cowboy fan, but you know, Malik is the one that's at the top of the secondary. He is the one that's manning the free safety position. It has never been a question about Malik Hooker's athletic ability or his speed, his awareness, his talents on the field at all. We never question his ability. We only question the most important ability, which is availability, and that's where he struggles at the most. We know he's rangy. We know he can play sideline to sideline. He plays the ball very well. He's very active in the secondary. He don't mind coming up, laying the wood on you. He will hit you. He will stick his nose in that box and stuff to run from time to time. Malik is basically a complete safety. He plays with a little nastiness. He got a little edge in his game. And we love that, especially in this defense. This is an attitude type defense now with Micah and, you know, some of the new players we added on. I like the type of attitude this team is developing. But you know that, like I said before, they say availability is the best ability, and that's his biggest weakness. And it don't matter how talented you are. If you can't stay on the field, you're not helping anybody. So you can be moved out, you can be shipped out, you can walk the plank. But hopefully Malik can stay healthy and we can see him display all of his talents on the field, and which will help this secondary tremendously. We haven't had a safety this good in a very, very long time. I believe Malik Hooker is gonna prove that he's one of the better safeties the Cowboys done had in probably the last decade. Roy Williams was just a good tackler in my opinion. He was decent, but he wasn't the best in coverage in my opinion. But he's easily one of the more talented safeties we done had in Dallas in a long time. Jason Garrett regime really just didn't show that position no love at all. We was playing Jeff Heath, for God's sakes, but we really just neglected the safety position in Dallas in the last decade, and I think Malik could be one of the better safeties that we done seen in a while. When healthy, Malik Hooker, in my opinion, especially with Indianapolis, he was one of the top 5 safeties in the league, in my opinion. He was a great coverage player. He was great at tackling. He was doing everything pretty well, but just kept getting bombarded and getting riddled with injuries that just derailed his whole career, to the point where we never really got to see him reach his full potential. We never got to see the exact type of player that he could develop to be. So to me, this was a very, very low risk, high reward type move by the Dallas Cowboys. I loved every bit of it when they did bring him in last year. I just see so much upside in Malik Hooker. If we can get him to become at least 75% of the player he was projected to be, this would be an absolute steal for the Dallas Cowboys. One of the smarter, one of the more bargain basement type moves, but it could pay off tremendously if Malik can return back to form, especially when you take into account the way Dan Quinn has built this front seven with Micah Parsons and then the addition of Sam Williams and Dante Fowler. We got a lot of defensive ends and pass rushers just coming at quarterbacks going crazy. If he could just manage to stay healthy, I believe Malik Hooker can be basically a Pro Bowl level safety. But that's all I got for you today, man. Just holla at your boy, Landlord from Alabama, with the same handle on all social media. And like I say, 1K, 1 love, Cowboys Nation. Let's go.